Hi there, Robin here from Expert On. Today's question of the day comes from JN596. And his question is, what elevation and placement works best for speakers at a wedding with a front dance floor? Should speakers only be up front, on the side, back? Will they sound louder if they're spread apart? These are all very good questions, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's question of the day. So we're going to start off with the actual elevation of a speaker. Now, you're going to look at the speakers that you own or that you plan on buying. In this case, this happens to be a Blast King Blade 12A. And in the instruction manual, it says the vertical coverage angle is 75 degrees, which is pretty impressive. So that is basically, well, if I do my math right, 37.5 degrees up and down for dispersion. And because you can tilt this particular speaker, you're going to get an extra 12.5 inches. So we're basically up to almost 50 degree angle on the downside. So what can I take from that? Doing a little math. My sweet spot with this speaker all the way up on a crank stand is 8 feet high for the horn, and that gives me basically a 2-to-1 ratio thereabouts. I mean, we're not engineering this here. So if I'm 4 feet away, I'm going to get a balanced sound off of that. And the more important part here is carry distance. We're going to get maximum carry distance if we have a bunch of people standing up in front of the speaker. That's real important. So again, if you're on a dance floor, you want to be able to PA everybody across the room, and that's the best way to do it. So 35 to 50 feet away at anywhere between 60 to 80% of the dB level that you started off with. So that's a good way to get across the room. If I start dropping the speaker, which you can, because a lot of times you're going to see DJs, we'll bring it down a bit. So a lot of times you see this kind of setup, which puts the driver head level of people standing up and the horn all the way up here. Now the speaker would be set up straight in that case, and that's going to give us good carry distance. When the dance floor is empty, that's good because it'll carry across the dance floor. So if you're not using a crank mount setup and you just have speaker placement, somewhere in the range where you get the actual woofer just above the average ear or head height, and then the horn can carry across. For the actual angle, so should they be in the corners? Should they be close to the DJ on the center? Should they be in the back of the room? Well, first, I try to avoid having them in the back of any room. If I'm up front and I'm DJing up here, I would like to have the speakers come from this side going towards the audience, going into the dance floor, going into everybody having dinner, that sort of thing. What happens is we naturally cancel out noise that's behind us. I mean, it's like when we go out to a dinner, there could be like, 100 people behind having conversations, but yet we can hear the person in front of us no problem, even if they're only half as loud as everything else going on. It's just in our nature. So we definitely want to have the speakers up front with us. How do I like to cut up a room? Well, if you have a dance floor, we'll keep easy math involved here. 24 feet wide by 24 feet, nice square box. That means I'd want to set the speakers up 8 feet in, 8 feet gap, 8 feet from the other end of the stage. Why? Because that's going to give me even dispersion across the entire dance floor. That's a square box. So that's probably the easiest way to get a floor set up. Also remember, there's politics involved. When you go to a hall, the hall is going to say, oh, go set up over there, and this is where the DJ normally gets all their equipment going. If you think you can do a little bit better than what they're just randomly saying, do that. Do it, but remember, you got to deal with these people all night long, so you're going to want to have a little bit of politics and make sure you get that right set up and that they're happy and you're happy, because at the end of the day, you're not always going to get it perfect. Now, can you put them off to the sides? You can bring them off to the sides, but remember, when you have a speaker that has a 90-degree cut across the room from the front, you're going to want to be able to take that into consideration the closer you get to the wall on the left and right side. You're going to have deflection of sound that's going to come off of it and eventually cross paths in front of you, or sorry, in front of the speaker, and that's going to create a lot of noise cancellation where it crosses. It happens. I mean, not always, but that's what happens, especially if you're in a narrow but yet long room. So a good setup on a floor would be normally anything from 1-to-1 ratio. So, take the 24 or 32 by 32 box. Most halls are, if you're trying to get the whole hall filled with sound. Most halls are usually a 1:1 ratio, so 50 feet by 50 feet, and then they can knock open panels and create a bigger space. So you go from 4:3 to back to a 2:1 ratio. So just keep that in mind when you're placing your speakers. If you're trying to get further across the space, remember, the higher the speakers are, the easier it is for that sound to get across. As it disperses, the sound that's going up is eventually going to reflect off the ceiling, and the sound that's going down, well, once it starts hitting people, we're like sponges. We're just going to soak it up. And the more people there are, well, the more often that's going to happen. When you see a big concert setup, you'll see what they call line arrays coming off the actual ceiling, and they come down and they curve away like that, sort of like a J. And of course, there's lots of science going on there with offsetting sound and all of that. But the idea is to capture everybody from the front all the way to the back. Also, a real good point is to take the size of the space. Now, yes, when you're dealing with a dance floor, you can simply have some subwoofers, some tops, and you can do a really good job covering that space, no problem. And remember, just follow the rule of trying to break up the dance floor into 3 zones or across the actual space that you're setting yourself up. So this way you are going to have, if the dance floor is 24 feet, well, yeah, there you go. You've got an 8-foot chop. If it's 30, then it's 10 feet, 10 feet, and that's going to be your spread. Even it out. If the room starts to get really, really big, or you have to carry, it's kind of the opposite of what you see in a concert. If you, again, look at big line array setups, you're going to see where there's side fill speakers because there's so many people, and the speakers are placed so forward that they're concerned about everybody hearing it evenly. In a hall, you can end up with the opposite problem, where you've spread your speakers apart so much that you're more concerned about the dance floor and infill sound. So you would have something that's higher up straight across the entire hall, so you can easily carry a really large space. Maybe there's a wedding for 500 people. Now remember, we haven't talked about how many speakers you're going to need or how big these speakers should be, but the important thing is to understand that sometimes you do need to set yourself up with more than just 2 speakers and 2 subwoofers. So that's all important. Again, break up the room evenly, keep them up front with you, so this way the attention and everything is at that point. Keep them high enough so they can carry across the entire room evenly. Don't be too concerned about the fact that they're angled or not angled. Do be concerned about them not being high enough. Worst thing we want is to have somebody right in front of the speaker hearing 100 dB when you're really trying to carry the space at 80 dB. So there you go. So remember, size is going to be proportionate. Larger space, larger volume of people. Smaller space, smaller volume of people. That's real important to take note. So that's today's question. I hope it certainly worked out for you. If you got any other questions, just note it as question of the day down below. And if it's a good question, I think it's a helpful question, and it's something I can help you with, I'll be happy to try and answer it. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.